Good evening, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to the Tuesday, March 12th City Council meeting of City of Morro Bay. I'd like to ask the city clerk to establish a quorum and we'll call the meeting to order. Thank you.
Good evening. Thank you. Councilmember Barton has not joined us quite yet. Councilmember Edwards.
Here.
Councilmember Ford.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Landrum.
Here.
And Mayor Wixom.
Here. With that, we'll take a moment of silence. Thank you. Mr. Newmeyer, can you lead us in the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Last planning commission meeting, we didn't even have a flag, so we just saluted a faux flag. It happens.
Thank you very much. Welcome, everyone. Quiet crowd tonight. With that, we will move into reports. Closed session report, Mr. Newmeyer.
Good evening, Madam Mayor. No closed session items to report tonight.
Thank you very much for that. And with that, we will go to mayor and council member reports, announcements, and presentations. I'm going to start out with my laundry list. Hopefully some of you got an opportunity to go down and watch the big, the bad, and the ugly surf competition this weekend. Town was packed. It was wonderful. Great to see everybody out. It was a very busy weekend. I had an opportunity to attend the opening for the Morro Bay High School Wellness Center. Great addition to their school facilities and an opportunity for the high school students to have a place to pop in and readjust and unwind. And it was really great. Music playing and a lot of festivities. The chamber mixers tomorrow night, I will remind everybody, down on the Embarcadero at World Globes. Also tomorrow we have the grand opening at the Rockview Housing Authority Haslow project. We're thrilled to see that opened after so many months of delays with waiting for the electrical connections and things. And I see a lot of residents moving in there. We have the citywide garage sale coming up this weekend. So hopefully everybody's going to be out moving some wares to empty their closets out. And there will be a lot of people in town for that. So we're looking forward to that. Yesterday, I'm sure most of you know, and for those of you who don't, the draft EIR was released for the Vistra project. Vistra has a workshop scheduled for March 27th at the Vets Hall from 6 to 8, and there will be other meetings. We have yet to receive the rescheduled dates, but we will make sure to announce them and put them up on the city website. Had a meeting with the subcommittee for the water reclamation facility in which we continue to talk about our IPR wells and finishing up with the groups that have been working out there with Anvil and the other organizations. And I had joined the LAFCO, Local Agency Formation Commission, as an alternate, as a city mayor representative. So I will be sitting in on those meetings that one of the other mayors will not be able to attend, and that will be in regards to regional planning for our county. With that, I will go to my right for Councilmember Landrum.
Let's see. I was asked to be on a panel at Teach Elementary School for a project for innovation and exploration at the elementary school. And because some of the projects had to do with Morro Bay, they asked me to do it. And it was the cutest, most amazing thing I've ever seen. Like, it was adorable. And those kids are so smart. I can't even fathom it. And let's see, on Sunday, I went to there was an event here at the Vets Hall with React Alliance, put on an amazing fundraiser, and They had a lot of information. They had a lot of speakers. They had bands. It was so well attended. There must have been hundreds of people here. And it was really cool to see the food trucks in the back. Yeah, and kids and just all ages. I saw people from all over the county that I know. So that was fun. And yes, we did the mayor and I were we had a meeting about the reclaimed water. And I just want to add that we still don't have, we have an amount, we don't have an engineer's estimate yet. So that that hasn't been decided or estimated. It's a very vague estimate that we have so far. So I just do want to point out that that still is an unknown. And I think that's all.
Thank you. Councilmember Ford.
Thank you, Mayor Nixon. You two have been very active. I had the honor of also attending the Wellness Center at Morro Bay High School, and it's really incredible the transformation that has taken place on that campus. Even since my children just graduated a few years ago, they've really done a great job. And this center is a place where students can feel welcome at any time in their lives while they're on campus, whether they are seeking help from a counselor or just needing time away from the daily of being a student, just needing some time away and some peace and quiet. And I'm just really happy that our school here in Morro Bay has that space available for students. And I also went to the Planning Commission meeting, and it was a really, I'm going to use the word nifty. It was a nifty night. There were, the room was filled with college students, which was really refreshing to see, just a sea of these young, inspired students who were there for a couple of reasons. One was a presentation that was kind of a abridged version of what was presented at the Extreme LA Challenge that they had on the Cal Poly campus in their architectural engineering department. Essentially, they were able, they had 3 teams that were challenged with redesigning the waterfront, kind of at the beginning of, I would say, right where the stacks are to the rock, essentially, that whole strip right there. And just seeing their different views on what could take place there, honoring the past and also honoring the present. Really interesting stuff that they brought to the table. And I'm really glad that the Planning Commission and our community had the opportunity to see those innovative ideas. And it's always good to have that refreshing, uninhibited thought, looking at all that, that space. So that was a really interesting presentation, as well as the presentation on the climate action plan that was also conducted with Cal Poly and our staff. So it was really, really enlightening and inspiring the entire night. So that's all. I'll leave you with that.
Thank you. Councilmember Edwards.
Sure. Thank you, Mayor. So I was had the pleasure of holding my listening session on March 3rd at the community center, and that was neighborhood was the Beach Track neighborhood, and we really had a wonderful discussion. There was over a dozen of us there. And essentially, one of the capital projects that we mainly ended up focusing on was the Beachcomber Mainline and Beachcomber Backyard and Side Yard project. And just kind of talking about some of the main points. I mean, the pipe, obviously, replacement there, and when the project would be happening, what, you know, kinds of mitigation might be happening. And I think everybody was just tossing around some really great solutions. And of course, a lot of this information I'm kind of compiling, and I'm going to give over to the city manager and the staff to have. So I felt that that was a great conversation. Other topics included parking on Beachcomber, above the RV park. We got into Toro Lane a little bit and striping and speed signs. So anyway, it was just a wonderful couple hours of conversation, and I was really glad to get to know some more of that neighborhood. So the next listening session that I'm going to be having is on April 14th from 1 to 3. At the same location, which is the Recreation Center, and it's the studio, which is off to the left there. This time I'm doing North Morro Bay, and this time it'll be from San Jacinto to Highway 41. So if you live in that neighborhood, I'll be having a flyer that you will hopefully see soon, and it'll give you all the information and how to RSVP and whatnot. Thank you.
Updates?
Yes. I also attended the Planning Commission where the Cal Poly students were speaking. Absolutely fascinating. Such a completely different outlook. It was kind of fun to hear and see what they saw. So that was fun. Let's see. I stopped in at the Monday night dinner to drop off a donation and stayed for a while to observe the way that that all works, and it was just really great. So a tip of the hat to everybody who volunteers there. It just really was a great thing. Let's see, and oh, I had some family visiting over the weekend, and we decided to walk down Morro Bay Boulevard on Sunday morning. So we had coffee at Scout, and then walked around and went to some of the other places, Morro Maid and the art gallery, and just it was so interesting to see how active Morro Bay Boulevard was, and the looked like many of the parking places were full, and that's a good thing. So anyway, those are the things I had.
Thank you, Councilmember Barton. City Manager reports.
Thank you, Mayor. I have a few things following the mid-year budget report that we approved last city council meeting. Staff here had kicked off the development of fiscal year 24-25 budget cycle. I, as a city manager, I give staff a few directives. One being that we wanted to be conscientious with our discretionary expenditures this year, and then we recognize that our staff has always been very frugal. However, this is the first time that is my first new budget. We wanted the department on some discretionary one-day budget for discretionary budgets, wanted to, instead of just the status quo, build in 5% or 4% increase. Departments are asked to basically dial back to zero and then request according to City Council's goals and objectives. Also, we wanted to put on focus on our employees and then the capital improvement projects. So we'll see I'm excited about the process, and I will be working with departments and then especially the finance department closely to deliver the budget this year. And then a few community related events or items here. Mayor has already shared with the public that the battery project EIR has been released. I merely just want to add that right now we have 75 days to respond. At this point, May 7th, there's a planning commission, and the city is planning to take some verbal comments on the draft EIR at that point. But the entire process is going to be at least 75 days. Regarding the short-term rental issue, we have received many inquiries from the public regarding this, and the community development team and the finance team has been doing research, and along with city clerk to do research on this subject. We are going to bring a status report to the city council in late April or early May. And at this point, we identify something that there is the portal on the business license for short-term rental is not working quite right. So and community development and department had fixed that issue. So now folks cannot just automatically apply for business license through the online portal. They would have to go through a approval process, because in order to receive a short-term rental license, the applicant need approval from business license and a short-term rental license from the department, and both have to be in there. And so something was not working well. It's the process needed some improvement, and we're identify weaknesses and trying to fix the problem and as we identify them. But in April or May, we're gonna have a complete status update before the city council. And regarding homelessness, the cleanup of the encampment, we have received a lot of emails on this one as well. The city team, public works department, police chief, fire chief got together, working with the private property owners, and we're taking a very collaborative approach on this one. And volunteers were identified, and property owners are stepping up and wanted to help and to make this a partnership, public and private partnership. So we are also working with city's trash hauler, and hopefully we can have some donation on the bins and then can clean up the trash. At this point, we don't have a date just yet, and city team, my team, public works director, police chief, and fire chief are coordinating that. I attended the Chamber of Commerce CEO interview. So I hope that we'll have an announcement for the next CEO very soon. I also had a meeting with my colleague and also my friend, Guru Beach city manager last week, and he showed me the tiny home project in Guru Beach, which is very interesting. And I learned some interesting perspective on that project, and then I would like to share that with my team, and then see how whether that's going to work for us or not. I want to look into that. I also visited their council chamber, just like they have a space to have their council meetings, and unlike us, their chamber is fixed, just in that it's permanent, whereby it's only used for city council meetings and then community meetings. Was now shared with events such as Mountain Dinner, and they did some innovative way of remodel the building, the structure. It was very interesting, informative, and I had spoke with public works director, and then we're gonna look into to learn maybe perhaps from their experience. So that was very good. I know I'm not a Guru Beach City Council, but I really want to say that when I met with my colleague, I just very much impressed by his passion for the profession, and I even feel the level of uplift just by meeting with him and talking about the affairs for the city. By the way, he didn't ask me to say that. I just thought I was impressed. I also attended along with community development director and public works utility manager. We attended a utility update meeting, which was provided by PGE. And in that meeting, we learned, I know our audience already know that, and the rates is going to go up, PGE's electric rate going up pretty significantly. I think it was around 14% or something. Is significant. I also want to add that city staff submitted waterfront master plan grant application last week. hopefully we're going to hear a positive response from the Coastal Commission on this one. I know there's a lot of anticipation on this plan, and hopefully we'll be able to get a grant and then get working on that plan. I also accompanied the council subcommittee on the battery project. Had a which comprised of mayor and the council member Edwards, to a meeting with a potential interested party on our power plant property. It is a very interesting concept, and we need to further look into that. I wanted to share that with the public in that this power plant. The power plant property is currently undergoing the master plan review process as well. So for the general public, if you have any comments, you can participate in that process. Well, lastly, I want to on behalf of Chief Watkins, I know that I wanted to say that Ironman, the staff is working on Ironman events, and Chief, could you give a quick update on what's the preparation at this point?
Thank you, City Manager Kimball. We have, as we did previously, started our conversations with our city team and in cooperation with Ironman staff. We are now meeting on a weekly basis. We're discussing logistics, any potential changes that might come about. Nothing contract-wise, just more of some of the logistics and how we can better present this event and provide better access to the Embarcadero during the event, and then also just having a better experience for everybody. This is our second year, and some of the things we discussed, as a matter of fact, today was that first year we understood the things that we did well. We certainly understood the things that we needed to improve upon, and so this year is really, I think, what the community and council will see is some of the efforts we're going to try to make to see if we can improve it year by year. And at the end of those 3 years, we at least have a good grasp on what is the right way forward if council decides to move forward with this event. So we have 3 years to really optimize and make it the most efficient and good thing for this community. And so that decision should be a little bit easier if you choose to move forward. So one of the things that we are discussing is they're going to do an Iron Kids event the Saturday before. So the event this year is on Sunday, May 19th. On Saturday, May 18th will be the Iron Kids, which will be held at Cloisters Park. It's a morning kind of a fun run for the kids. It's just a run. It's not a bike or swim. But I think that'll be a great place to hold that event. It's for participants, families as kids, as well as our local families and kids here. So it's usually for grade school to junior high or middle school age kids, and it's supposed to be a lot of fun. And they get medals and water bottles and get to kind of feel what it is to maybe run in one of those someday. So that's something we're looking forward to. So your team's working hard to make sure that we certainly get this year a lot of that correspondence out and communication to our community so that they know what to expect. One of the main things that council brought to us was changing it to a Sunday, how that impacts commute to church. And from what I understand, it will be no impact to commute to church based on our church locations. And so, yeah, that's where we're headed, and I think it's going really well. And we'll continue to have, we will have a community meeting, any kind of informational meeting on Tuesday, the 26th of March. So that'll be in just a couple weeks. And then we will hold a second and final community meeting for any kind of questions that people might have about the route, road closures, things like that, on April 19th. So that'll be 30 days out from the actual event, May 19th. So it's going well, and certainly appreciate all the staff and their attendance in meetings because it's a lot of logistics to go through. So
that's conclude my report.
Thank you very much.
Can I there's one more thing that I forgot to mention. During my report, okay. I believe it was last meeting, I had mentioned that there was a planned information session from PG&E on March 14th. I wanted to let, and Betty, this one goes out to you. That meeting for PG&E on the 14th was canceled. As soon as it's rescheduled, I will make sure that I announce it here, as long as timing works out, but hopefully it will be rescheduled. And if so, if there's enough time, I will announce it here.
Thank you, Councilmember Ford. With that, we will go to public comment. I have one speaker slip, and after that, open mic. First up, Linda Winters, please.
Did you see that confident walk up here? I'm good. I'm entitling this little talk 7,656. My name is Linda Winters. I am a 30-year resident in the same mobile home park here in Morro Bay. When we met last, my final statement was about this building and how we use it. On March 5th, we used it for the ultimate purpose, the primary election. 7,656 represents the registered voters here in Morro Bay. That's a very impressive number. Very strong voices, and apparently 63% of that 7,656, and I have no idea how many that entails, but we have very strong citizen support of this city. I also talk about, thank you for the mention, Ms. Barton, about Monday night dinners. We've had 2 Monday night dinners since last we met. We serviced over 140 folks, providing clothing, toiletry articles, food bank, hot meals, all run by volunteers. Another shining light for our Morro Bay citizens. And last but not least, Saturday, March 9th, 2024, citizens of Morro Bay and beyond came together in this very same building for a wonderfully informative gathering with food, entertainment and dancing and fundraising going towards Save Our Seas project held by React Alliance to keep our beautiful, peaceful, small city as beautiful and untouched as it is now. Over 250 people attended, and lots more learned that if we don't use our voting voices, we could lose our little city's beauty forever. Thank you.
Public comment is open.
Good evening, Mayor and Council and city staff. A lot of challenges in our city. It's pretty exciting when you see all the activities going on, almost mind-boggling. Attended Cindy Edwards listened to. That was good. One of the things that we talked about that I'd like to bring up again is the bicycle path. The state has, I just reviewed the state's drawing for the bicycle path, and if you haven't, it's kind of interesting. They're going to make a path coming from Cayucas right along the edge of the Highway 1. And when they get to the park in North Morro Bay, there's a parking lot there. They're basically going to turn off of the highway into the city's property. And the homeowners along Toro Lane, when they built their homes there, you know, the history is there used to be a motel there. And so when they tore the motel down and when they realigned Highway 1, there were 9 water hookups basically along there. I believe that's the right number. So in exchange for allowing those people to build 9 homes, they put the money in and they provided the street, the Toro Lane, a very narrow street, and they built the parking lot at the end of it. And all those people, since they've lived there, have a fee. I'm going to use the word fee that they have to pay for the city to maintain the parks, and then they maintain the street themselves. Well, this plan of taking the bicycle path and just dumping it on Toro Lane is, at the best, it's interesting, but mostly it's dangerous. And I know that I've lived in that area for a long time. I walk my dog there. If you go do a traffic look at that intersection where Yerba Buena comes down and Beachcomber, this afternoon it was wonderful. I think I saw one car there and one surfer, nothing going on. But the activity takes place there on the weekend when we have people coming in and out of the entrance to the RV park that's run by the state, when we have the surfers parked there on both sides of the street, and we have some $3,000 or $4,000 or $5,000 bicycles coming off the highway around Yerba Buena and making the turn at Beachcomber. And I will predict today that there will be a major medical accident because of the impact of the bicycles and the cars there. And unless that intersection is properly studied, and unless someone takes a look at my suggestions are red curbs on either side of Beachcomber for the first block, because if you have cars coming up Beachcomber, you can't make it, and people walk there. There are no sidewalks to walk your dogs on, and there are walkers in the campground and people. So it's a major safety hazard, and this needs to be addressed. And if it's not put on a priority somewhere soon, we're going to have problems. Thank you.
Betty Winholtz, I have 4 items I'd like to address. And before I do, I'd just like to say, I agree. I use that intersection a bit too. And it does need studying for safety reasons. The 4 questions I have for this evening, well, they're not all questions. The first one is that a couple of meetings ago, I mentioned about how Scout hadn't opened yet, and it has, and that's great. But I had at the time also mentioned that there's a burning smell that comes out of there, and it was very strong this afternoon when I was across the street having lunch, and when I was downtown shopping yesterday, there was a burning smell as well. So I don't know how many days a week they get to roast their coffee, and while that smell is not being dissipated by some kind of filter, but I hope that isn't off our agenda, that we can figure out what's going along with that. The second item I would like to say is at 41 and Sunset, the new low-income housing, I ran into a 3rd person this week that had also applied for that was from Morro Bay, and they had been turned away. And so I would like some assurance from the city that Haslo actually prioritized Morro Bay residents over non-Morro Bay residents when they selected people to live in that building. That was one of the conditions, and I just think that we need to follow up and make that they did their job, and that there's maybe more than enough people to fill that building. But it surprises me that I continue to run into people who had applied and were denied. The third item I'd like to bring up is it's great to have the yard sale this weekend. My question is, I'm curious why we did not have the Morro Bay extra garbage pickup afterwards, and if that could be explained and if that can be corrected for next year, because I know that we negotiate with them. And then my 4th item is I want to very much thank whether it's the city manager or whoever for the extension on the review of the draft EIR for the power plant. Thank you.
Anyone else for public comment? AGP, do we have anyone in the, oh, sorry.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I just basically wanted to echo Linda Winter's statement about the Save Our Seas and what will hopefully not be happening off our very near coast because of PG&E's efforts. PG&E recently, well, not so recently, it was a few years back, they were trying to conduct seismic testing for Diablo Canyon, which one of the local fishermen here made a point of pointing out that it actually, because of the seismic testing and some of the things that already had been done, the local halibut population actually vanished for a while out here because of the unsettling of the grounds in that area. That's just one of the results of that kind of behavior out in the sea with testing and what it does to the environment. PG&E also tried to talk about how much take there would be, which actually translates as kill for the amount of fish that are out in the environment. They mentioned whales, obviously any kind of cetacean that includes dolphins and of course pinnipeds and other marine sea life in the area, which can literally be shattered, certainly by the eardrums, and other organs in their bodies can actually be vibrated to shattering, literally, by the kind of equipment that is used. So it would be an incredible injury, not only to our fishery, but just to the general population to have seismic testing going on, which I was informed would be tried again for the windmills so that they could go into the sea out there in the area they were going into, which I am usually for. I think wind power is a great idea, but not if seismic testing is involved. As far as I'm concerned, it should be illegal. It's a criminal thing to do to the environment. If not legally criminal, it's certainly morally criminal. What we do to the environment in that regard, certainly the lives of what are considered actually intelligent species in the whales and all of that. And just one other comment, at least on sperm whale populations, they're considered, their brains are actually larger for their body mass of any animal in the animal kingdom, including our own. We're usually very thoughtful towards our sense of brain mass because we're humans and we're supposed to be really intelligent, but they actually say that sperm whales may actually rival our own intelligence, and to put them at risk, I think, is inhuman. And so that could be happening if that goes on. So thank you for allowing me to speak.
In a society that demands that we cheat, steal, and murder to prove our morality, loyalty, and righteousness, one of my dearly beloved human family members decided to show us that no amount of individual suffering could ever come close to the suffering we force on each other. How relieved the mainstream news sources were that he did not injure anyone. No staff members were injured, and the ATF and SS are investigating, said the BBC and New York Times. The level of threat to the public and embassy was unknown, and officers acted swiftly and professionally, said the Washington Post. I guess it was important to remind people that these anarchists are dangerous. After all, 2023 was a record year for murder by anarchists in the US, at least 1,300 victims. Hold on, did I say anarchists? Well, that's not right. They haven't killed anybody in the US for decades. What I meant to say was that 2023 was a record year for killings by the police, amidst a historic downward trend in violent crimes, no less. Silly me, confusing anarchist ideals of empowering people with actual domestic terrorism. Amidst the love you have espoused for such evils as big business, green capitalism, and fascism, how much thought have you given to what the future holds for the individuals that make up our community? As our situations grow more dire, do you truly believe that the artifacts of your injustices, whether intended or otherwise, will remain unscathed by a rage of the people so profound it would drive us to set ourselves alight? Even here in Morro Bay, I have had harassment and slurs hurled at me as I shop, sit in the park, or walk down the boulevard. I undo anti-Semitic and white nationalist vandalism of public property. By the way, Mr. Johnson, that is not the proper use of chili oil. Our world is falling apart, And in our fear, we lash out. Yet you, who claim to know better than us the paths that our lives should take, still seek luxury. I tell you now, luxury is violence. Regardless of whether or not my neighbors recognize the causes of their sufferings, indeed, even if I myself happen to be completely wrong about everything, I do believe we recognize our own pain. Even if we cannot be freed of it, we will still find someone to be made to answer for it. Will it be those that have authority or those that do not?
Hello, good evening, everybody. Nicole Dorfman, resident of Morro Bay. And I want to say thank you to everybody who attended the Save Our Seas event on Saturday. It was really just beyond my expectations. There were hundreds of people there. The businesses in our town and actually up and down the Central Coast and even North County, South County, business owners were incredibly generous with raffle items, silent auction items, donations. There is an incredible outpouring of support along the whole Central Coast for this mission of protecting our town and also protecting the marine environment from the potential impacts of offshore wind energy. And something to tie into that, Councilmember Ford, you mentioned PG&E, I believe, increasing the rates 14%, did you say that? Which is pretty astounding. And if we can go by what other communities have had to deal with once they have all their wind farms up, we can expect it to increase 3 to 5 times what we have now. And in fact, there was a presentation at the community center by Cal Poly a couple weeks ago, and the economy, specifically the finances of offshore wind. And that was mentioned that we can expect, I believe they said, a 5 times rate increase. And so for me, it's really problematic when we're looking at that and we see that that's going to happen. I mean, it's going to result in energy poverty. We already know how expensive things are just to pay your rent. I mean, can you imagine your electricity bill being, $1,000 a month? It's untenable, and it will push people into poverty and homelessness. I think it's very dangerous to put all our eggs in one basket. This notion of electrifying everything, I think it's very dangerous. And case in point, a few weeks ago, there was a part of the town that had a power outage. And the power was out all day. I didn't know this because my power wasn't out, but I was at Shine doing some shopping and ran into a couple people I know who are food insecure, and their power had been out, and they were saying, "What are we going to eat?" And I said, and they said, everything's electric. We can't do anything. And I said, oh, well, I'll cook something for you and I can bring it to you, which is what happened. But I have a gas stove and I'm so grateful because my power has been out and I've been able to make dinner for my children. So I think it's a very dangerous agenda that's being pushed on us where we can't even heat tea or make some soup for our children because everything's electric and there's no power, or we can't afford the power anymore because it's so expensive. So just something to think about. Thank you.
AGP, do we have anyone in the queue?
Mayor Wixom, we have no raised hands.
Thank you very much. With that, I will close public comment and bring it back to council. Mr. Kwalik, the bike plan that will be coming back when the county or the Coastal Commission works further on that, will there be future engagement with the community on that? Toro Lane bike connector?
Thank you for the question, Mayor. There will be future engagement with the community on that. As I recall, the county planner that is overseeing this project committed to bringing the project back at a higher level of design, or at least the PWAB. I can look into my notes and see exactly what other engagements that we'll have the opportunity to have in front of the council, if the council would like that.
Thank you, appreciate that. And also the Oder from APCD, is that through you or community development? Community development. Okay, thank you. I'll follow up on that. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. With that, we will move to the consent agenda. And I will open public comment on the consent agenda. I have 2 speaker slips to start with, and Bill LaFay and then Terry Simons. Thank you.
I want to hear what you
Mayor, City Council, thank you for letting me speak. My name is Bill LaFay, resident of Morro Bay. And as the president of the Friends of the Morro Bay Harbor Department, I want to speak and to give another shout out to all the community members and everyone who contributed to the fundraising goal in securing the purchase of the state-of-the-art Polaris UTV. We have enough money. I talked to Ted earlier today, and we're going to be ordering that this week. So I just wanted to give the community and everyone that was involved in the fundraising efforts a nice thank you. That was it.
Consent item? Yes, sir. Good evening, council, staff. Terry Simons, Morro Bay. In speaking to item 7G, which is the state staff report regarding the state's recent determination that we have to, within 5 years from some date not specific, I'm sure it's specific somewhere, provide 412.5 acre feet per year of reclaimed water back into the community system. This is a lead up, apparently, to prepare the city council for, I'm assuming, a budget line item of $9.4 million. The remaining monies in the WARF program, the Recycled Water Project budget. And again, I realize we're early in the game, but my experience with the WARF project in general is that these budgets are always very mythical. And I'm very concerned that a $9.4 million budget is going to turn into a $20+ million budget by the time this reclaimed water eventually gets back into our system. But my biggest concern in looking at the defined next steps is their number 2, I would think it would be number 1, but number 2 is to complete a CEQA evaluation of the project. And I would hope that in that CEQA evaluation that the alternative project of not using indirect potable, but using direct potable water from the plant itself and have the final polishing of the water that we're currently making at the plant be able to be injected into the community system at the plant rather than bringing it all the way back down the hill, pumping it into the ground, which is a pumping cost, contaminating that almost pure water with the horribly contaminated groundwater, pumping it back out at an additional cost, and then pumping it through our our water treatment program, and then pumping it back up to our storage tanks. This to me seems to defy the physics of mass through distance and can only mean more and more costs to the cost of the water that we're ultimately going to get with reclaimed water. I would like to see that this council would direct staff to, in their environmental review, at least consider the option of direct injection. It's now legal in the state of California. The Regional Water Quality Control Board has set new standards for that as effective of January of this year, and we can do that system. That's what I've got. Thank you.
Thank you. Public comment is open on the consent agenda.
Betty Winholtz again. I'd like to speak to 3 items. The first one is 7B that has to do with implementing a fee on skiffs. And that's fine. I'm just wondering how that's going to work down at Bayshore Bluffs where a lot of the skiffs are. It's so the word's not lax, it's just not in, there's nothing there to enforce. So I would like an explanation if someone would pull that or just explain to us how that's going to work. And then on 7D, I want to appreciate the thoroughness of the report from Washington, D.C. I was amazed at how much work got done, and it's the most information we've ever received on how much you all work when you go back there. So just my appreciation, particularly for the dredging, for the fishers, and for the offshore wind, just to mention all those things over and over again. And then on 7G, which is what Mr. Simons was just speaking to, I also had a concern about the amount of $9 million. Doesn't seem like it's going to go very far, which it makes me wonder if we're getting set up for another 218 vote. And so I don't know if there's more information that can come from that about the financing. Thank you.
Anyone else for public comment on the consent agenda? AGP?
Mayor Wixom, we have no raised hands.
For consent agenda?
Yeah. Item 7E. I believe the number was $107,712.53. That's a big number. That's also a really small number. So far as I've seen, and I admittedly did not do all that much research, I actually had a little trouble with it. The Van Burens have both a successful real estate and an insurance business, two business sectors that I personally do find largely morally reprehensible. About 5 blocks away from my house, they managed to sell a residential property. I'd say it's about twice the square footage of where I live for about $2 million. I struggle to even conceive of how much money this family is worth. And that's partly why I have a problem with this this figure that they're paying to the city. I can't suggest a better figure, largely because not only is modern economics quite convoluted, but most of the time finances are going on, behind closed doors. The public doesn't really have access to that information, and I don't necessarily think that they should. However, and I am sure that most of you, if not all of you, do believe in the right of the individual to make as much money as they can. However, just as a meager consolation, and this is something that has been on my mind for many years, but I have not fleshed out as much as I probably should have, I would like to see something along the lines of mandating posting of profit margins for businesses. I know this is a pretty bizarre idea, and I suspect anybody that has run a business would probably find it somewhat terrifying. However, if they're worth more money than a person could ever reasonably use, then I'd say we have the right to demand that they do their fair share. We have no idea what that might be. I mean, I don't know. Maybe $107,000 is, a significant chunk of change for them. I highly doubt it. I mean, that's what, about 1/10 of $1 million? And I don't spend very much money. I probably spend $100 a month at most just on things that I want rather than things that I need. And $100,000, that would last me a very, very, very long time.
Anyone else for public comment on the consent agenda? AGP, do we have any raised hands?
Mayor Wixom, we have no raised hands.
Thank you very much. With that, I will close the consent agenda and bring it back to council. Mr. Chaffone, any very brief comment on the SCIF enforcement?
Well, just like every area of the harbor, enforcement is one of the issues we have, but periodic and routine. I'm sorry. Inspection and enforcement is difficult at the harbor, but routine and regular inspections of those areas will take care of that. 95% of the people that are going to purchase a permit for the annual space to leave their skiff are honest with us. The other 5% may or may not be, or just need a notice, but we'll enforce that on a routine and regular. It's not going to be every day. It won't be every week. Often enough that we'll keep compliance.
Thank you for that update. And Mr. LaFay, on behalf of the City Council and the city, thank you for the efforts on the Friends of Morro Bay Harbor and this recent addition. It's going to be phenomenal to have that emergency rescue vehicle available. Thank you. With that, is anyone wanting to pull anything from 7A to 7H?
I need to pull 7F in order to recuse myself from that item.
7F?
Yeah.
Okay. Anyone else?
7G, please.
7G.
I'd also like to pull 7D and 7H, please.
7D and 7H. Okay. So what does that leave us? A, B, C, E. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I will ask for, or I will make a motion to approve consent items A, B, C, and E, and ask for a second.
I'll second that.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. We'll go to 7D first. Councilmember Edwards.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to speak to this for a moment. One, saying what a great report that this was. I appreciated all the information that we got with regard to where the city manager, the mayor, and Mayor Pro Tem Landrum went, what meetings they attended. It was great to hear all that information, to feel somewhat even included in it. And all their work they did with the lobbyists and work going toward, you know, the work that we do every 25 years, apparently going in and advocating for dredging. Also, in this case, the T-Pier, a lot of the things that happened during the emergency time over January and March of last year. I mean, it's a lot. So there was a lot to go and advocate for. The other part of this is that I wanted to share, because I did get some concerned people who reached out to me with regard to how this transpired. For me, this is not really about anything outside of just, you know, what do we usually do? What is our normal process? And so in December 12th, on the agenda, consent agenda, the council as a whole approved for the attendance of the city manager, the harbor director.
Point of order.
Yeah.
Are you doing both items that you pulled right now, or are you on, because I thought you were on 7D.
It's going to connect.
So you're going to do both?
It's going to connect.
So we're jumping, okay.
It's going to connect.
I didn't know we were
jumping. It'll connect.
The one I had.
It'll
Okay.
connect. Don't worry. So what we approved, and again, this is just to explain the process that happened. We approved for the city manager and the harbor director to attend. What ended up happening prior to the delegates who were approved to leave was that the harbor director, Mr. Chiffon, fell ill. And so it was a quick decision to, the staff was basically, set against a short amount of time. Do we just have, the city manager and it was chosen to substitute the Mayor Pro Tem Landrum for the harbor director. So it was a quick decision. Normally in this situation, there would have been a calling of
meeting so that the council will be able to decide whether or not we approved this current delegate or appointed person to go on behalf of the delegate that fell out. So with all this said, and this comes to the 7E portion and trying to determine whether or not Mayor Pro Tem, sorry, 7H, thank you. Whether Mayor Pro Tem Landrum should be reimbursed. This was no fault of hers. So I just wanted to say for those people who questioned how this transpired, and a quick decision was made, but I want to say that the policy does not say that. There is no alternate defined within the policy. And so what I would like to, at this point, do is just to say that, because this is something that we do, we might want to think about having something in the report that would include, having alternates to be able to attend. And if those people fall ill and fall out, then we won't have to be put in this type of situation again. So that concludes.
Any other comments on 7D or 7H?
I had regarding 7H, I had similar situation where I had a few people reach out, and I appreciate Councilmember Edwards just kind of clarifying that and wanting to make sure that in the future we have clarity.
Thank you. Any other comments on these two items? And thank you for the clarity on that. And I think it would definitely behoove us in the future when we do vote on that we allocate it for 3 people or whatever the direction is at that time. And I would just remind the community that this money is not city spent money per se. It is a grant that's received from the Morro Bay Commercial Fishing Cable Liaisons that sends us there to advocate for them. And with that, I would also share that since we're on the subject of that and this item is pulled, that I received a notice today for a press release that the city of Morro Bay will receive $14.46 million from the fiscal year 2024 Energy and Water Appropriations Bill supported by Congressman Carbajal.
Yay.
The appropriated funds will be used for dredging and maintaining operations in the Morro Bay Harbor to benefit the commercial fishers and recreational boaters alike. So with that, I certainly want to thank Congressman Carbajal for his efforts with the Army Corps of Engineers and how critical this funding is to us for our navigation and maintenance and dredging in our harbor. So with that, I'll ask for a motion for item 7D and 7H. I'll make a motion for item 7D and 7H. Can I have a second, please?
I'll second that.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? 7G, Councilmember Landrum.
I was just wondering if perhaps Mr. Quallett could answer some of those questions that were asked tonight about the date of when the 5 years began or begins.
Thank you for the question, Councilmember Landrum. So to clarify that question about when that 5-year mark begins, it's 5 years after the construction of the recycled water facilities that the city has to meet the delivery requirement of 412.5 acre feet per year of recycled water. So 5 years after the construction activities are done, we have a deadline to complete those construction activities in September of 2026. So 5 years after that would be September of 2031.
And at that point, we have to be reclaiming 412.5 acre feet.
Yes, we will have to report that to the state.
And if there's any reason that we can't do that, what is our sentence?
It's a good question. I think it depends on the reason why we can't. In my view, if we've made a good faith effort to build out infrastructure that has the capacity for us to do that, then we will have to explain why we aren't meeting the targets, even though we have the infrastructure. If, you know, anyone who reads the letter can conclude that if there's some sort of breach of the agreement that we have with the state to provide for that infrastructure, then the city would have to immediately reimburse the state for that loan.
Of the $9.4 million.
Of the entirety of the
Oh,
SRF.
that's right. That's right.
Yep.
Okay. And can you answer the question about the CEQA evaluation? If that's not accepted, if the plan is not accepted, like how does that affect the financing? And
thank you for the question. I'll bring up Project Manager of Recycled Water Facilities, Daniel Heimel of Confluence Engineering, to answer that.
Thank you.
Thanks. Yeah, Councilman Landrum, so the CEQA evaluation that is going to be completed is really, it's a minor modification to account for some additional areas that have been identified for potential locations for injection wells that weren't included in the original EIR. And so it's not going to be a complete reevaluation of and a reopening of the entire EIR. It's going to be sort of it's a CEQA addendum is what is being targeted. So unlikely to include analysis of direct potable reuse, as that would represent a much more significant expansion of the EIR and cost significant additional time and money.
Well, is there a contingency plan though? What is in case it doesn't pass, or?
Yeah, excuse me, I'm not sure I understand the question.
Well, if it doesn't, like the smaller amount, you're saying it's a smaller amount that is required.
Yes, sorry, I understand. So what is being evaluated right now is expansion of the area of affected EIR, the area that the EIR covers, to include some additional areas where you're performing biological and archaeological surveys to evaluate if there are sensitive environmental resources in those areas. If there are, and they're unavoidable, then that would trigger a CEQA analysis that would go beyond an addendum, and that would trigger a supplemental EIR because there would be potentially new significant impacts that would be unavoidable.
Okay.
Program team is really anticipating and targeting these other areas to avoid those sensitive resources. And so the full intent is to identify a project scope that allows us to move forward with minor modifications to the EIR, i.e. an addendum to the existing EIR to stay on schedule and meet the timelines of the funding and financing agreements.
Okay. And if Mr. Kwolek or you, I don't know who would best answer this, the question that was asked about about the rates, and if this is these estimates are not accurate, these very rough estimates are not accurate, could you kind of briefly explain how the payment will work with the rate, the funds and stuff like that?
Sure. Thank you for the question, Councilmember Landrum. So the reason we don't have a more precise estimate for the cost of the recycled water facilities project is because, as I think you mentioned earlier in the meeting, we don't have an engineer's estimate yet. And the engineer's estimate comes during the design phase, which we hope to enter into shortly. We hope to get an RFP out in the next week or so for design. Once the design is complete, we'll have a clear idea of exactly what's going to go out there into the world physically, and then we can have a more accurate estimate of costs. So right now we have a placeholder for the whole program, and I believe it is 9.4 million that is carried within that 160 million of the entire program. You know, should that estimate go up, then obviously the cost of the project would go up and we would need to fund that. The public and the city council may have noticed that we did go out for RFP for water and sewer rate study, and partly it is in anticipation of a potential increase. At this time, I don't believe it's going to be an extreme increase like the ones we've seen before where it's jumping, $25 million. It'll probably be a more modest increase. I'm not going to say a number because I'll be wrong, but we do have other costs that have gone up I don't believe we've had a rate increase in the city for 5 years. And so that, during the last 5 years, we've seen pretty astronomical inflation and other cost increases that make operating the water and sewer systems more expensive. We also, beyond the wharf, have other critical water and sewer capital projects that are partially funded. And, so the study will be looking at all of those things together, the wharf, the other capital projects, as well as increases to cost to operate the systems.
Thank you. Anyone
else on this item?
Okay, then I move that we approve item 7G.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Voice vote, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Let me check with the city attorney. This is a consent agenda item 7F to accept a grant. Can she just recuse herself from the vote without stepping down? Can she just stay? Or would she need to physically leave?
You just approve it as a consent item, then the council member does not need to leave.
Perfect. There you go. Move approval of consent item 7F.
I second that.
Thank you. And I'll do a roll call vote.
Councilmember Barton?
Yes.
Councilmember Edwards? Yes. Mayor Pro Tem Landrum?
Yes.
And Mayor Wixom?
Yes.
Motion carries 4-0-1 with Councilmember Ford having recused herself.
Thank you. Make that a little easier.
Thank you. That was my next question.
And with that, we'll move on to item 9A, key staffing vacancies update. City Manager Kimball, please.
Well, thank you, Mayor and Council. I would like to take this opportunity to give you an update on the city staffing vacancies. The first slide, we want to give a overview of the city's organization chart. The city have approximately 100 full-time employees. We are a council manager form of government. We have a mayor and city council that are elected by our citizens. And in turn, mayor and city council appoint the city attorney and city manager, and also appoint your advisory committee and boards. And the city attorney, the city manager is the chief administrative officer for the city. And then the city manager is in charge of implementing city council policies and goals and city ordinances, and also operations, and as well as supervision of all city employees and their appointments. So we have, with that, I should go back. I wanted to point out that City of Morro Bay, we are really a full service city. There's 9 different departments that directly report to the city manager, from clerk, HR, and then admin services or finance department, and fire, harbor, police, community development, which overseeing the function of planning, building, code enforcement, and then Public Works Department, which have huge responsibilities from water, sewer, to transit, facilities and capital improvement project, and city maintenance, roads and streets. And then we have also a recreation division. So now I can move on to the next slide. Out of the hundreds some employees we have, the city see turnovers, and it's a kind of a routine thing that we have about, we have like in January 23, we have 0%. It was good month. And then start 1%, 2%. And so it's ebb and flow. And then recently, since September, we have 0%, and then it's 1%, December 2% in January, and then now we're February's stats show that we have 2% on since December. So dive into these vacancies. I counted out there are right now on this slide, we have 9 total vacancies. And then the harbor director and the planning manager, the last 2 vacancies are anticipated, and so that's 7 7 confirmed vacancies. So I wanted to go through them one by one with tonight. So I have each vacancies, they happen for different reasons. Some reasons are avoidable, some are not. The city do a very good job to recruit, and sometimes we have to be creative to to fill our vacancies. And there's some gold star positions, information system technician. This vacancy was created through attrition, and the position retired after 20-some years service. And then the position and the vacancy created, and we did an assessment with the department needs and then our strengths and weaknesses, and we decided to do an internal promotion. And because we wanted to give our employees a chance to move up, and then to highlight their contribution to the city. And then engineer technician 3 and city engineer. Let's go with city engineer first. City engineer is a very difficult position to fill because for some reason, everybody is looking for a city engineer. I think Caltrans, is my understanding, Caltrans all of a sudden had a bunch of money, and they decided to hire a lot of engineers to help them with their backlogged projects. And we lost our city engineer. We posted the vacancies, and for a little while, we thought that was darkest period in our life. We were not sure if we were able to get somebody. And I wanted to point out that's again, during these challenging crisis, so to speak, crisis moments, I rely on my team, I rely on my city council, and I rely on the community. And in this, for example, city engineer position, city council member Barton did her own outreach, and she told folks about this vacancy, and she encouraged folks to apply. And as a result, we actually hired a position. We offered a position to a very good candidate, and I public works director, and I will be very happy to introduce her at some point, right? And very soon, yeah. So that's to be filled in April. And that's, I'm very proud of this. Other city, when they lost their city engineer, well, I go attend city managers regional meeting, and there's our city engineer, we lost that. We couldn't fill this, and it's not, it's been 6 months, we still couldn't fill, and then everybody, the Caltrans took them all, but we were able to accomplish this within weeks. So thank you so much, Councilman Barton. And engineer technician 3 as well. We were able to fill the position relatively quickly. I see Greg, my public works director, smiling. I know he did a lot of work to make sure the right candidate was identified, and then boom, we do it quickly so we don't lose opportunity. Thank you, Greg. Then I have these blue highlighted positions. Those are director level positions, and then I'm going to talk about them one by one. The first vacancy is admin services department. The position is actually called assistant city manager / admin service director. And this position has been vacant since October last year. And then we were able to locate a very experienced, excellent interim ACM / ASD to help us until today. I don't believe Mr. Steve Kong is on the line. Oh, okay, good. Yeah, I want to take opportunity to express my gratitude to Mr. Conway for his contribution over the last 6 months and his guidance and his expertise. Because of him, this position is very, very unique. It's combined, as everybody can see. We had posted the position, the vacancy, the ad. We went through a recruitment process. It was very robust process. Our HR team put it together a very robust and excellent process. We attract over 30 applicants. We were able to interview. Originally, we identified about 5 different individuals to come to interview with us, and by the time we had an interview date, only 3 candidates left. And then we had our interviews. After everything, I felt that the skill set that these candidates offered do not necessarily align with the city's critical needs, which is the finance and also being able to mentoring our employees. So I decided to take to hit the reset button. I know that didn't make me popular at all, but you know, I understand the needs for the organization. I understand that sometimes it's okay to take a little bit of time, so you figured out what you really wanted. So at this point, we decided that which leads to the next item on the agenda. I had suggested I want to make a recommendation to change this position back to the finance director position. With that, we wanted to look for individuals that very focused on finance and accounting, and those kind of experience, rather than assistant city manager, which can be misleading on what you want. I totally need an assistant city manager, but at this point, I'm willing to put my needs aside, focus on what city needed best. So while I'm having the floor on this department, I give my thank to Mr. Conway, which I can't say enough thank to him. And then we also, tonight is actually his last day as the interim ACM/ASD. Moving forward to tomorrow with City Council's approval of your next calendar, next agenda, next item. The reinstatement of finance director. We have our internal person, our finance manager had Emily Conway, Emily Conrad has agreed to step up as the acting reinstated finance director until we have a position filled. But that's I want to say thank you to Emily for stepping up to the plate. Okay, so I wanted to pause to see if there's any questions on this department.
Any questions from council at this point? Any questions from council at this point? Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, so let's move on to oh yeah, I wanted to add, I'm sorry, I need to add the finance director position was the city had a finance director position from 2016 to 2021. And the assistant city manager / admin service director position was created in June of 2021 for the prior position until she departed in October 2023. All right, now let's move on to community development department. Community development department, we have recently lost our long tenured community development director, Scott Graham. He as he moved back to Pismo Beach after 10 years of hard work for the city of Morro Bay. We certainly thank him tremendously for what he have done for the community. And with his departure, we were able to locate a interim excellent, again, we're just so fortunate, an interim director, Michael Cauldron, who is not here tonight. As interim, you can work part-time. You don't have to come to city council meetings. And I did give him a approval to not attend tonight. I want to take a moment to say how thankful I have, or I think I can represent my team by saying that the team is very impressed by Mr. Cauldron to this point. His initial weeks was just very, very productive. The HDR, the short-term rental issues, he delved into that and then had some initial discussion and research with his team, finance department, and then he also took care of some subcommittee issues, and he is now looking at the downtown design review committee, and some of the discussions is going to happen. And then of course, we also have the battery project that we just issued draft ERI, environmental impact report for, and he is working with the planning manager and his team on this diligently and make sure that the public comments are considered, and there's plenty time for ample time for the public to comment on that. And then he also is working with the city's HR team and myself to see about about filling the position for the director and also the anticipated planning manager position. We have some plans. We made plans, and then we just need to execute those plans. And Michael has been effective in attracting local candidates for the director position, and to date we have about 13 applicants. This recruitment is open, and hopefully we'll land some very excellent director position, excellent director soon. Now I'm going to pause to see if the public or council have any questions on this department.
Thank you. Is there more? You're going to finish down the list in a minute?
Yeah.
Okay.
And the next one, I'm going to move on to the harbor. So I wanted to.
Also, I want to just do as a shout out to Mr. Conway, if he's still on the line, and thank him for his service.
Thank you, Mayor.
Really has been effective in the last 6 months that he's been here and helping us move forward with the finances and working with the finance manager. So I know that we're very appreciative of that. Any questions? Yes.
I do have a question, and I'm sorry, I'm going to take you back to the ACM finance director because it's something you mentioned after we were asked if we had questions.
Sorry. Yeah.
No, it's totally fine. What month was it that you had mentioned the ACM title was added to finance director?
It was created in June of 2021.
Okay, so it was right before my time, because I was like, I don't remember why, So do you happen to know why it was added? Is there any institutional knowledge as to why that was?
Yeah, I understand, because it's a recruitment tool again, and because the candidate later I'm gonna get to a slide talk about the talent pool being very tight in this area. And the finance director, so to speak, is another very hard to fill position, because you really want to, again, you want the right person, and our team is so talented. Their expectations are high. You can't just get somebody that you need to be able to talk numbers. You also need to be able to present numbers, because being able to tell a story, being able to be compelling in front of the public, and there's a high expectations. And I think at that point, the city manager at that point, and I'm sure it's a good decision that decided to do ACM / and that way we can recruit more candidates. Also, the hope was that the city manager can get some help from the assistant, from the assistant city manager. So that's kind of many layers to that decision.
Councilmember Ford, in answer to your question, I remember former city manager Scott Collins, he wanted to have an assistant city manager, but there wasn't funding to fully fund that and the finance position. So council approved him combining the two. So there could be somebody that could be tasked with assisting the city manager specifically because of workload, and then also do finance, the finance position as well. And, you know, of course, my understanding tonight is the proposal is to go back to doing just a finance director position.
Okay, I appreciate that from both of you. Thank you. Thank you. So
Thank you, City Manager. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm okay. Thank you. Okay.
I just had one question. So are the former finance director / assistant city manager, did was that position just more of a assistant city manager qualified, or was it fine? Did that person have finance experience?
Well, thank you for the question, but it's a very qualified individual, and as we all know, has moved on to a bigger city and do great things there. Unfortunately, I didn't have the opportunity to work with that individual for a very long time. So I felt that it would be remiss for me to judge the ability now, not without much knowledge and in the public meeting.
Oh, I didn't mean the ability. I just meant like the prior experience.
Yeah, I understand.
Okay.
I know. Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
So we're good? Okay, thank you. So I'm going to move on to the Harbor Department. So this one, I'm going to talk about our beloved Harbor Director, Ted Chiffon, and well, he's here, or pretending he's not here. And so this is a Harbor Department structure, just this organizational structure. I personally do not believe this one is a fair representation of the amount of the work that Harbor does. When you see this, is kind of cut and dry, have admin, have patrol. But in my discussion and evaluation of the department, it wasn't quite cut and dry, but the admin does more than just traditionally how you think is admin has business coordinator, which is Lori. She's okay. Lori left, and then have patrol, which is you think you're dealing with waterfront, and there's a lot of blended functions together that was not. It's very hard to capture. So director is handling everything, and we'll have the leases. We know we have leases. We'll have a harbor policy to implement earlier. The item discussed the fees, and the business coordinator in charge of that as well. And the public asked the enforcement, and that was handled by the department. And then also we have the offshore wind now, and the harbor director has to taking care of the offshore wind issue, and then I knew the DC trip, the lobbying trip, the follow-up, the letters, the request, the harbor director taking on, and perhaps with a little bit of support with some support from staff, and then it's a tremendous amount of responsibility for this small chart here. Also, harbor has a legacy. It's a kind of hallmark of Morro Bay. So when Mr. Chiffon announced confirmed his departure, his date of departure, anticipated departure in July, we were feel that we were kind of what are we going to do? We wanted to figure out what we're going to do. And he has kindly pointed out that over the years, the city had some studies done on harbor department operation, and studies suggest that the harbor could potentially be restructured and separate, just like this, separate patrol and the admiral or some other ways to separate it. We organize that for efficient purposes. And I really appreciate that thought, and I have been looking into that potential. And again, like I said earlier, when I'm running into crisis situations, when I'm uncertain what I need to do, I rely on my team. I rely on my city council. I rely on my community. And in this matter, I just thrilled, and I'm so proud of the police chief and fire chief and even harbor department, Lori and Becca, they all, and of course Ted too. Everybody come together and to work collaboratively to see the ins and outs of what is the best way from staff perspective. So I'm really looking forward to hear the final outcome. It's to be working on at this point. Any questions on this one? Okay, so I'm gonna move on. We covered this 3 department. So it's my job to be sometimes to be negative. So not so much negative, but just being informational. I want to point out some challenges to obvious challenges to recruit the talent pool and the vacancy. This doesn't show this. It should say regional vacancies, but it only showed words, didn't show the complete word. You can see these are department rather director level vacancies in countywide. Paso is hiring, Paso, San Luis, and Pismo. Of course, Pismo now only have 1 vacancy. I just want to point that out. Thank you. And so the talent pool is rather tight. Central Coast is remote in its own ways, and when there's a vacancy, everybody, the cost of living is high, which is my second point there. So folks, there's one vacancy, a lot of people want it, and then just a few cities and they shuffle around, and that's what happened with some of our vacancies. And there's really, unfortunately, it happens. It does happen. You try your best to keep your people, and the cost of housing and relocation is high. And I did an internet search, so if the data is wrong, it's not my fault. It's showing that the housing is like almost $830,000, and for somebody to buy a house in San Luis Obispo County, a average house, you need to make $120,000 from there, and just wide range to or above to be able to afford. So that's a significant challenge there. And then compensation gap, I wanted to point out, this is just the reality. The city, this year we have 3 labor group MOUs that we need to negotiate, and then whenever we do negotiations, it's about compensation, it's about work condition, and so this is obviously is a reality we have to face. And then the city also conducted a classification and compensation study last year, and that result indicated that the city is more than 5% below the labor market median for 63% of, or majority of the city positions that surveyed. So that's not necessarily favorable news for us. And then the other challenge to recruit is to take time to know yourself. I like to take time to do a self-assessment, to know to be aware what I'm not, what I am, what I'm not, and what my team are, what my team are not. And these things does take time. And then also when I assess the city's needs, I just come to the conclusion that we're like this atlas, we're like this person here, that we're a small city, but we're shouldering the burden of the whole globe almost. We're a small town with huge responsibilities. Thinking about offshore wind being a good example. We didn't ask for it. It's being imposed upon us, and we have no resource for that. So these are challenging to take time and to assess yourself, and our responsibilities are huge for our small team. These are just realities. So, but I'm a very positive person. So here, questions, and then any questions?
Thank you very much for that thorough presentation.
That concludes my
the
presentation.
pros and cons, the highs and lows. Yeah, we'll start with, I'll wait on mine. I'll go to my left. Councilmember Edwards, you want to start? Questions?
No, actually, City Manager Kimball, I really appreciate that, the thoroughness of your report. I think sometimes it's good to review basic government structure, and especially when we have questions about people leaving jobs or taking on new opportunities. And the hope, of course, is that we become someone else's opportunity, right? So thank you for that.
I agree. Thank you, Councilmember. I do have a question for City Manager Kimball. I know that we're having some, it's normal to lose staff. Retention is difficult when we aren't competitive in pay. I know you're working on pay. My question to you, and maybe you don't have an answer at this time, but I would love to hear ideas that maybe you have on how we can entice new staffers to come here or make their blood, and how to keep them here, whether or not we're able to raise their pay.
Well, such a good question. I could write a paper on that one. Love to hear it. Or just something come to my mind immediately. The culture is probably one important part of that, and also like a good example. The other part is the outreach to get to enlarge your pool. And so earlier example with Councilmember Barton and her outreach, and that's bringing us a good results. It is really about the fit. You want to find people who is a good fit for you, and it's not just skills. Skills is very important. Personalities are important as well, and it's a complex it's a complex issue, and some as far as the creative ways. I in my other cities that where I work, and I would open up to private sector folks who have no governmental experience, but we give them a chance and let them try it out, and then also the city here, we're using that too, the retirees, but that's a lot of time just for the interim temporary positions. And so you wanted to build in some other very effective way that I tried. I know is still very effective everywhere is succession planning. You want to give your own people, your own employees a chance to move up. And so you focus on them, you train them, you give them opportunity. So I think that sometimes builds loyalty.
Thank you for answering that on the spot, City Manager Kimball. I agree. It's important to really look at our current staff, and it's enticing for staff to stick around if they know there's opportunity to move up the ladder. So yeah, thank you.
Councilmember Barton, questions?
No.
Councilmember Edwards, questions? Landrum, sorry.
Well, I want to thank Councilmember Barton for casting out her net and helping to find a difficult to find engineer. That's great. I think the self-assessment is a really good focus. I think that's very smart. And I appreciate this report. It's very thorough. I guess my question would be for maybe someone that has been on council in the past. And I will defer to the mayor right now and ask it, or City Manager Kimball, in your prior experience, has it, because you worked in smaller cities, and I imagine that the pay was kind of comparable to what Morro Bay has. Did you ever find, and either of you, that there were times that it was really difficult to hire people? Or is that like, is this a, you know, I don't remember really hearing that here in the past. And I just think maybe we might want to change the dialogue, because we do have great employees that are currently working here. And I don't think that, you know, everyone probably wants more pay. That's just a given. No one ever thinks enough is enough. But I think that, you know, it's kind of, I think that the employees that we have seem, I mean, I hope they're happy working here. And I would just think that the dialogue maybe should change, because it's to me, it's a bit degrading to keep saying that. So that we pay so little. I don't know. Comparisons are, you know, the first signs of war. I just don't think that they're always what you should focus on. And do you want to respond?
I will share that my 4 years on council before, we were in a recession and we were cutting jobs. So it was very different than where we are now coming out of COVID. I think that the culture's changed in how you approach jobs, and the city has been creative over the last few years by having flex schedules and things like that, so that you are competitive with other jobs. You know, you talked about Caltrans and an engineer going there. It's not always just the pay, but the flex schedules and the, you know, remote work and all those things. And it's challenging to find that balance. I think it used to be a good sales pitch for Morro Bay that we had this great view, but as the facts are, you know, and I think Mr. Conway may have said it, I don't want to put words in his mouth, but I think, you know, somebody said, or whoever it was, you know, the view doesn't pay the bills. And so it's very challenging. And if Morro Bay gives an increase, then Grover Beach will do their evaluation and they'll say, oh, Morro Bay gets this much, so now we're going to do this. And then Pismo's going to, and it's just going to continue, because we're in a time of extreme inflation and the cost of living in the county and things. So it's competitive and it's difficult. It really is. I think our departments do a good job with the culture in their departments, the director heads. You know, I always look to the fire department, because, you know, Chief McCrane's the first chief that was hired that wasn't moved up in the last 20 years. And we're thankful to have him, and he's brought a whole new direction and level. So it lifts. There's pros and cons to both sides, but the last person to leave that vacancy and open up a vacancy was Scott Subler, who retired after 30 years. So there is long-term legit, you know, workforce here, and there's a lot of that. And I, you know, they're like the poster child for the city, and it's difficult because you can go to the sheriff's department or Paso PD or somewhere and drive over the hill for more money. So it's a lot of responsibility on our department heads to try and find those incentives. And I know that really didn't answer your question, but I mean, it's a tough, we've talked about this in the county, kind of this trading, you know, the city manager left at one place, went to another, ours went to Haslo, Arroyo Grande's went to San Luis, Pismo's went to Atascadero. And so it's just, it's not just us. It's, and when you hear it's statewide, and you may hear in Sacramento where you're up there, you know, with the assembly member and things like that, we all see it. So it's extremely challenging to bring workforce in right now, really is. I don't know if there's something you want to add to that, Ms. Kimball.
Yeah, sure. Thank you so much, Councilmember Vice Mayor Landrum, for your question, and thank you, Mayor, for the information as well. Yes, Mayor is absolutely correct, and it is very it's just competitive, because we want skilled folks, and everybody wants skilled folks, and there's only that many skilled folks that to go around. So you need to remain competitive in the market. And to answer Vice Mayor Landrum's question, yes, my past experience with small rural cities, it's very difficult to recruit. It's always this way, because you can't afford to pay. In my other cases, our pay is not competitive in the county. We can compare to the county, and and then living just in the county, our offices across street from each other. So my employer can very easily just find a job in the county, doesn't even have to move, doesn't have to do anything. But that's reality. That's just reality. We need to, reality is what it is. You can make a big deal out of it, or you just be okay with it. It is what it is. You wanted to move on, you wanted to attract who you can attract. And the views, yes, Morro Bay is a good place. It's an excellent place. I want to work here, and the departments are here. So it's not to say that it's doomed day, but we just want to be aware that there are challenges, and there's always challenges. And then just reminded me, I know when we say that Councilmember Barton, Cass, and I wanted to thank all of you, because all of you have been this way. All 5 of council members, whenever we have vacancy, I know you immediately just spread the word. Oh yeah, I know so-and-so, I'm going to introduce to you, and then let's meet, let's talk. And actually Vice Mayor Lundgren has brought some talented people for us to meet for potential vacancies, and I certainly appreciate that. Thank you, Vice Mayor Lundgren.
Thank you, City Manager Kimball.
With that, I will open public comment on this item.
Thank you, Mayor, City Council. My name is Bill LaFay. You have quite a challenge on your hands, and as a business person that have owned 2 businesses for the last 40 years, we deal with priorities. And I'm speaking on behalf of the Harbor Department more than anything. I've been a Harbor Advisory Board member for 7 years. I probably am at the Harbor office every day over the last couple of years. And Ted has done a great job. I'm going to miss him, and I wish he would stay on. And I know that you talked to the fire and the police that taking over the Harbor Department, I think that is a bad idea. We call the harbor the heart of Morro Bay. The Harbor Department is the heart of Morro Bay. If we didn't have a good harbor or a good Harbor Department, we wouldn't have the tourists. We wouldn't have the economic engine that runs Morro Bay. I think you need to look. Right now, you have 2 very dedicated, very capable people to handle the Harbor Department. Leave them alone. Do not split up the Harbor Department right now, and just evaluate it a little bit more until you can fix maybe the finance department, the other departments that maybe need a little bit more help right now. That's what I have to say. There is so much going on with the harbor right now, as you said, offshore, battery plant, paid parking at the Rock, the other things that the harbor do. We might need a harbor director, another one. You might want to just really look at that and at least recruit that. But for right now, leave it alone. Thank you.
Terry Simons, Morro Bay, at the risk of sounding like counterpoint. It appears to me, in looking at the master chart that Manager Kimball had up, that we have a serious imbalance in the number of people working under the various directorships. And since our administrative salaries are based on level and each directorship commands a certain salary, we have some directors managing 3 or 4 people, and we have other directors managing 30 or 40 people. That would never stand in any other kind of business operation. And I think it's something you need to take a very strong look at and try to balance up the way in which responsibility and compensation is being spread. I think that some of the directorships could be consolidated. And I think, contrary to what Mr. LaFay was saying, I don't know that we need a harbor director per se. The Harbor Department has 2 distinct branches. It has a sworn officer division, the guys that carry the guns and patrol the boats. Sounds remarkably like our police department. And then we have an administrative division that issue various kinds of permits and leases and manage properties. Sounds very much like our business office. I think it's wonderful. I think that our current harbor master has done a good job while he's been here, but the fact that he's moving on doesn't necessarily mean that we have to carry forward with that role and the cost of that role. I think that the load and the workload could be redistributed to other directors in the city. And I think that that same theory should be applied to community development, for instance. Community development is a remarkably big operation, but it's done with a very small number of people. Doesn't make a lot of sense in my mind. And maybe we need to take another look at that and combine that with some of the other things that are involved with building and building management. Thank you.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, council members, city staff, and neighbors. My name is Jeff Eccles. I'm a resident of North Morro Bay. I'm going to express some gratitude. First off, we have some great people here tonight, and I want to call out Greg, who's done a wonderful job since he's been here, and I especially want to call out our chief of police. I was going to say commander, but Chief Watkins, because I knew her when she was commander. And this is a model of who we want to keep. So we want to keep her here and replicate her as much as possible. To the city manager, I have to thank you for your transparency, for your humility, for your objectivity in your presentation tonight. I think it's something that's rarely seen, frankly, in a city manager. I've been around city government for 30 years or so and involved with governance for 50 years. I was president of the 6th grade class at elementary school, so it really has been 50 years. And that type of transparency helps. And I think you hit on the word that we need to focus on, because we do have the challenge as a small municipality and finances, and a lot of decisions in the past have been based necessarily so on finances. So that is something that is fixed. We can't just create money out of air. Only the federal government can do that. But what we can do is, and you touched on it, city manager, is we can create the culture here that will attract folks. And being flexible, I think the mayor, I believe, touched on different approaches that we can use in terms of benefits or perks for our department heads and employees, plus defining the culture of the city that creates fertile ground to attract qualified employees. So if we move in that direction, I think we've got a chance. And I'll just close with saying this. Anytime there, I think I heard the word crisis tonight, or at least we've got a challenge in front of us. I know this because I've got a few gray hairs now. Anytime there is challenge and crisis, there's opportunity. So I would love for our city, our little city on the bay, to look at this as an opportunity to become who we truly want to be. We've got several openings. The city manager gets to build out her own team, and we can use this as a time to get just really some talented folks on board and create the culture that we've always wanted to see here. So I'm looking at it as a time of opportunity for us. Thank you.
Betty Winholtz, I just want to reflect on the finance department and splitting that off from of an assistant city manager. Back in the day when I was on council, even before the mayor, we never had assistants, and we didn't have that many more employees. I think we had 100 or a little bit less. I know that would be to your benefit, City Manager Kimball, to have one, but I think it's more important to have a person that's focused on finance and that knows how to do that and do that well. Prior, when we didn't have an assistant, and the manager went out of town, they just kind of rotated those responsibilities until that person returned. So I think it's very doable. I'm appreciative that you're looking at that, and I hope that the council will approve your request to have a finance director, not a combined seat. And to the harbor director, I hope that he'll stay a little longer than he's intending.
Good evening, Barry Brandon, Morro Bay. Yes, I'd like to reemphasize the finance director. I think if you look back, the recent financial report, we had a great deal of earnings that came to the city. We hadn't had that before. The amount of earnings, I think, was over $250,000. And so the worst thing you can do, is an old story about hiding your talents under a bushel. Our talents, our money was hidden under a bushel and it wasn't being utilized. So a good finance person will more than pay for themselves. And so that's really what this is a business. We're operating a multi-million-dollar business. I've done that. And if you don't focus on the revenue, then you won't be able to perform your job. So please focus on the finance. The young lady that went to Tahoe was such a unique person with talents and skills. And it's illegal to Shanghai people, but many times I thought we should go do that. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. So I hope that with the next city engineer, we get a good one. So I hope whoever this person is will do us well. And that brings me to the fact that because we've gone through, let's say from 2017 on forward, with the largest public works project this town ever built. And it's a mess. It's not finished. We still have the IPR lines to be built, and at a cost of, who knows, another couple of $1 million, 10 million, 15 by the time we're done. And we have a time crunch. The Business and Professions Code, also known as the Professional Engineering Act. It's called PE Act. Section 6700 of the code says that a person who is managing contractors must be an engineer. It can't. In the past, our city manager, Mr. Collins, said he was in charge of all the contractors who, Anvil and Flunk Beach, everything that was going on. I don't know how many more contractors we'll have going forward trying to get our reclamation part finished, but it should be somebody that's an engineer that's watching the dollar, that's watching the spreadsheets, that's doing reports, that doesn't just sit in an office, but needs to go out in the field and observe what's going on so that we don't have to look back and say, how did this happen? Why isn't it working right? And so forth. So I'll be looking at that new engineer kind of closely. And I hope this person has the experience and expertise to do such a thing for our town. Seriously. So that's my comment on tonight's, what'd you call it? The hiring thing.
Staffing vacancies. Thank you. Anyone else for public comment on item 9A? AGP, are there any raised hands?
Hi, Mayor Wixom. There are no raised hands in the queue.
Thank you. With that, I will close public comment and bring it back to council for comments. And I do believe this is a receive and file, correct? So I'll bring it back for comments. Councilmember Ford.
Thank you, Mayor Wixom. And thank you, City Manager Kimball, for this report. I like that you kind of did a deep dive into each department and how each department functions. Just kind of going back to my question earlier, I think, and I think it was kind of stated here, it's difficult when in a region we're all aware of each other's cities' pay for certain positions, and it's hard to be competitive. And whether or not we compare or not, we have to consider cost of living and also, paying the bills, right? So I just want to say that I think above and beyond pay, just creating a culture that is desirable, I think is really going to be our strongest asset as the city of Morro Bay. It's a beautiful place to look at, but a lot of our staff sit in a room, may not even have a window with a view. And so it's great. Morro Bay is great. Maybe the drive here is wonderful. Maybe your lunch break is awesome. But other than that, you're not really enjoying the city as staff more often than not. So I just want to say that I am here to support and encourage a culture that helps our staff feel happy and a place where they can thrive. And city manager, any way that our council, at least I guess I can't speak on behalf of council, but I'm here to support you in any way possible to make that culture as amazing as it possibly can be. I think there's always room for improvement. And I think that each day we're trying to figure out which ways we could do that. And that maybe pay is something we can increase and maybe we can't. But we certainly, I want to be here as a support to you and to our staff and creating that positive place that people want to come and work at and also want to stay. So that's my offer to you is my support as our city manager in that journey as we create that environment.
Thank you. Councilmember Edwards, comments?
Yeah, I just want to kind of state the obvious too, and that is the cost of living to live in Morro Bay. The unfortunate component of this is allowing, for somebody to actually live within our city. And, I do recognize that our previous city manager was able to do that. But it doesn't always happen. And I think my colleagues up here would agree, part of the beauty of this community is living amongst each other. So, it's tough when you can't afford to do that. So, it's yet another little part of this that's challenging. But I do agree, firm believer, come from a background of business experience where culture was everything, being a member of a tribe, if you will. And I certainly believe in that can be created from within, and it takes leadership to be a part of that. And so again, that you can create an environment in which people are drawn to it and look forward to working within it and enjoy the people that they work with and build relationships both in and out of our community. And so I think that should be where we try to focus from here on out too.
Councilmember Burton.
I wanted to thank City Manager Kimball also for the deep dive. This was a really interesting presentation. So thank you so much for doing it.
Vice Mayor.
I've said a lot already, but I guess I will say that I look forward to Manager Kimball's opportunities in the future of her ability to hire new department heads and new staff members, and I applaud her taking her time and really putting a lot of thought into this and doing it right.
Thank you. Just to comment on a couple of the things that were shared tonight, the department levels, the department heads are all at the same pay rate. So regardless of the harbor director having, 10 people and community development having 30 or 40 or 50 people, the pay structures other than public safety or the others are the same. So their steps are the same. I think the challenge becomes managing all of those people. And that was a comment that we had talked about, with some of our admin services, when there's requests for more staffing, trying to balance out where they go or what departments, it's really challenging. And each city manager that I've known over the last 20 years longer that I've known many of them, have a different style and they restructure constantly. The maintenance department used to be with, parks used to be with the recreation. It was parks and recs and maintenance, and then they threw the roads in. But the parks and recreation director didn't have engineering experience and didn't have anybody really in the department that did at the time. So you're setting up for a failure. So having those key staffing members at those levels is just key to the success. And, Mr. Qualick's a good example of having a very large department to manage and how important those key players are. Some of the employees that have left, other than these few who are moving on to greener pastures, have retired from the city again, and I think, our city clerk could attest to that, as she's been with the city for so many years and had opportunities for advancements within the system, and seen many others who have taken that opportunity. And that was what was stated, opportunity. You have to look at it for that. We've been able to procure other employees, like our new maintenance lead supervisor, who's just been phenomenal. What a change. It's been huge. I mean, it's evident to anybody watching out in the city. So these people can elevate the whole team. And again, I give that credit to the leadership of the department heads and as the executive team and their members as a whole. I think there is opportunity there. The police department, the mentoring, the succession planning that's been there. And I see that with the chief now, working with the commander, the chief before working with the commander. That succession planning is huge in how we keep people. The harbor department, they don't carry guns, for starters. No guns. In all the years that I've been following, and I was on the Bay Foundation and the NEP and on council, and I worked with Rick Algert and with Eric and now with Ted, and in a recession and all these things that ebb and flow, there's always considerations, just like Public Works, for consolidation and changes, and staying open to those things I think are really important. You can stay status quo, hire another harbor director, and keep going the way you are with the staffing and team that's there. You can consider, what does that look like to merge with other departments? I spoke with a few of the harbor members just recently who approached me and talked about the fire department, and I shared with them that there's opportunity through the Friends of Morro Bay Fire, who's a 501c3 that gives scholarships for EMT, paramedic, and those programs, that if that department were to merge, then those opportunities are there, which gives them professional development, personal development, a greater value, a greater pay for themselves, and in the whole team. So again, there's opportunity. It's just how you're going to move forward and what makes the most sense. So I appreciate the executive team that's working on looking at those things and working with the staffing there and all this work. Look forward to next steps. I'm happy that we're getting some local resources, and I think that helps because they're not having to come into the community and absorb what the housing costs are if they're already in our area, and that's a big difference too. So thank you for this, and it is a receive and file. And with that, we will move on to 9B, and that is the city manager.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. The 9B is my request to for City Council to approve this restatement of the finance structure, and then approve the updated job description, and also revise the salary schedule with that salary. And so there's several pieces, and we kind of covered that in the earlier item. And the reinstatement of finance structure, jobs classification, and this was initiated following the recruitment of assistant city manager / admin service director position. And it is my recommendation that we want to focus on finance, and so we want to attract folks who have a clear ability or clear focus on the finance world, rather than a blend of things at this point. So for that reason, I made a request for this item.
Thank you very much. Questions?
Okay, I have a question. If it's okay if I go? Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah, you're fine.
Looked at you and didn't say anything. Sorry. Sorry.
Just don't want to speak out of turn here. I appreciated this report. I absolutely appreciate how we got to this point, focusing on the finance side of things. I do have a question. While I'm very supportive of this recommendation, my question is, I know you haven't really had an assistant city manager yet, so there's not, it's not that you're going to, it's not that something's going away, but my question to you, City Manager Kimball, is where do you see our last city manager found the need for an assistant city manager, and being that you're not, I'm just curious where we can pick up that slack if there is slack, or find that support for you. And if that something that I've been kicking around is the idea that we had talked about in our action items prior is a communications person. And so my question to you, is that something that we could consider? Maybe that's a future agenda item, so I apologize if this is out of order here, but so, okay, let me go back to the question for you. Do you see the need to have an assistant?
I can answer, Mayor. Okay, thank you. Yeah, I deeply appreciate the question, and I wanted to say that I certainly would like to have another body. And if I can clone myself, sometimes I have 5 meetings at the same time. And then if there's Zoom, I just let Zoom on and then go in person, because just, it's very demanding. And again, I'm thinking about this. I have the image of the person with the globe, the big burden on a person's shoulder. And I use that, not just me, I just think the city as a whole, we're shouldering the burden of a very big responsibility for our size. And that said, yes, communications has been brought up by Councilmember Ford, Councilmember Edwards, and other council members, and also clearly stated in the goal statement. Would that be, yes, it would be very helpful if we'll have a PIO. Other cities have a PIO, and we in this city, because we didn't have PIO, we can everybody do their own PIO, everybody do their own information, and it worked. Is that the most ideal situation? No, it's not. Back to other comments from the public that we just prioritize. I'd like to have an assistant city manager to help with the things like PIO communication, and then some other like cross-departmental functions, such as we have website need to be updated, and we have offshore wind, and we have a lot of things going on, and to support City Council with your outreach effort, listening sessions, and town halls, and things in that nature, and the support of public. Would even organize a volunteer program. There's a lot of things that we could do, and even just internally, we have a contract process. We could have a centralized person to manage the contract process. So it's across department. Every department has the needs. I certainly, yes, if I have my way, yes, I would need one. I think city manager, my predecessor is absolutely correct that they needed that, and we would want that position. Coming back to now that I had it, however, I decided to go with the finance, because I think at this point, the finance, we need more attention. Our city has been very well run. We have the revenue expenditures, just so much needs. Someone just needs to be able to look at the future, lead the projection is something and things that we wanted to do a little better on. And with the needs continuing and going up, the revenue may or may not keep up with speed, and we want to be efficient. And so those things I realize something that I cannot do it all by myself. I need to direct. So I right now I need to direct somebody in finance to do the finance related things, and investment was brought up, and cost allocation, the services, the fees are up to date. Are we and we have the work project, the loans, how track the loans and make timely reports, and we talk about grants, and we have a grants. Are we up to date with our grant reports? And those are all finance duty. We have so many funds, so finance alone is a huge responsibility. Therefore, yes, the answer is that I need a assistant city manager, but I realize that at this point, the prioritization is going to go to finance. And I hope at some point, perhaps when that's all settled, and I trust my people, I trust the process. I think after a little while, we'll kind of we will gel together as a stronger team, and then I think a solution will happen. We may somebody from the department, from the current team, may be able to take on additional duties to do the cross functions kind of responsibilities, and also want to be creative. Want to look at development and reimbursement agreements, who can pay for some of the project related positions. So I appreciate council member and city council's concern about the city manager's need. It is there, it is real. On the other hand, I have to prioritize, and I decided to prioritize on finance.
Okay, I appreciate your honesty there. So as I had mentioned, I understand wanting or prioritizing the finance director. And so for me, it begs the question whether or not as a council, we need to be looking at ways to create a position aside from this, figuring out within our budget process how we can support a position that fills those needs. The reason I say this is I understand it's expensive to hire another employee. I get that. And if that employee would pay for themselves in a way that if we were to have somebody in that position that frees up more of your time and our staff's time, especially not having a staff member who's maybe already full, completely full in their scope of work, to add more to their plates. And so I'm just wondering, would we have more opportunity to apply for grants? Would we have more opportunity to get information out there to the community and to various agencies? What I'm getting at is, could it pay for itself by creating efficiency, supporting you, city manager, supporting your staff, and just creating clarity, and then also aligning with our goal of transparency and outreach. So I just wanted to throw that out there. I know it's not on the agenda to create a position. I just think that if I'm going to get to a yes on this item, which I want to be, I also need to know that we're not going to fall behind because we don't have this person in a position or somebody similar to the position that an assistant city manager would be. So yeah. I'm trying to get confidence here in this item. Okay, that's what I'm getting at.
But I wanted to thank you. I wanted to add something to my earlier answer. Yes, I certainly need an assistant city manager. I would love to have an assistant city manager to assist me, Every city manager in the county has one. And then in the regional meeting, they will say that all the manager will say, oh, well, my assistant, and then they sympathize with me because I don't have one. But regardless, I wanted to say that you know, our needs as far as website cross departmental needs, those needs has been existing. It's not just happened since my hire. It's still need to be taken care of. It's just take time. And then as far as is anybody here, 16 staff has any capacity to take on more things? Probably not. Everybody has a plate full of things need to be done. That's come to the collaboration when the city staff and the executive team put together, collaborate, and helping each other, and then promote efficiency, and that would help. And essentially, the other part of that is that we're working on a budget right now, and then there are some I think if we really look into that, there may be some hard decisions that may come before the city council. I may make a recommendation on some contract services. I may say, well, if I combine this with this, give me a position. I would rather have a position than have this contract. And I don't know yet, but it's something that is a working progress. Thank you. One last thing about that is that this is my only question. It's focused on this. So my question then is, if we were to revisit that original position that we had talked about in communications, and that we had recruited the Morro Bay Chamber and their economic development program to help us find someone to fill that position. I'm just, this kind of goes back to the prior item where I wonder if it would help if it takes a load off of your shoulders to a certain extent and doesn't put more of a load onto our staff members. I'm just curious if that would help with our next hires and retention is what I'm getting at. So I just want to say options, right? Yeah, so I just want to say that I would be supportive in the future of having another position come back to us if we can figure that out in our finalization of our budget process to actually fund that position, because I think that person could act as your assistant to a certain extent, right? And at least in the communications part. And I feel like that would be an asset to everyone. Right, I agree. And also, Councilmember Ford and the other thing that I wanted to share my thoughts with you is that I'm not completely reject the idea of a slash. That's a slash, assistant senior slash something. I'm not rejecting that. It's maybe assistant senior manager slash finance director isn't about the best combination at this point. It doesn't mean that there's no other good combination out there. It's just that at this point, things evolve. So yeah. Okay. No, I think you've explained the importance of the finance director position. I do appreciate you clarifying all of that. So I'll stop so that others can comment.
Yeah, we're getting off topic of the item, so I want to try and stay focused on that. Councilmember Edwards, questions? No. Councilmember Barton, questions? Councilmember Landrum, questions? Public comment is opened on this item 9B.
Terry Simons, Morro Bay. Thank you, Madam Chair and Council. Periodically, I become a stickler for semantics because what we say and the way we say things does mean something. This action is a reinstatement of a finance director. Yet one council member says, "Oh, I don't want to create any new positions." Well, a nice way to not create a new position is to reinstate a position that you did have but don't have anymore. Sounds like you're creating a new position to me. I'm sorry. The job classification, job descriptions, these are all pretty normal. Then you get down to the real meat of this thing. And there's the discussion about how the classification increasing the salary for the community development director to align with other Morro Bay directors. We didn't lose our community development director because his salary was not aligned with the other directors in the city. We have too many directors in our city, and because pay is a function of what we call the people in the job. If you're a director, you automatically get this salary. We need to start renaming these positions and reassigning values for those positions. The community development director that just moved to Pismo Beach basically made a financial lateral move. He didn't go to Pismo Beach because they were going to pay him more. He had a lot of reasons to go, but it wasn't for a bigger paycheck. But right now, our system, the way it's set up, if you call someone a director, you're obliged to pay them a director wage, as is pointed out in here, that we're trying to align our community development director salary with the other directors. I think that there's fundamentally something wrong here. We need to describe the jobs that the various people in the various positions do, and the number of people that they supervise, the scope and breadth of and technical requirements in terms of education and credentialing should define what a person makes in a job, not just simply the fact that they are or are not a manager, a director, a this or a that. That's costing the city a lot of money. And we're losing qualified people that would come in and would qualify for jobs. They're not coming just for the money. They're coming to be here and to be part of a team. But we're spending a lot of money on people that are they're fine people and they're doing a nice job, but they don't have the weight of the job. I look at Mr. Kwolek's staffing load and I go, my God, how does he manage all of those people? This is why I like him so much, is because he's still here and he manages all these people. And there are other department heads that I work with that basically walk around their office, can tap the heads of the people that work for them in about a 2-minute walk. So anyway, enough said. Watch out how we link our titles to our pay. Thank you.
AGP, do we have anyone in the queue?
Hi, Mayor Wixom. We have no raised hands in the queue.
Thank you. If there are no further public comments on this item, I will close it and bring it back to council for discussion.
I will just say that I like the idea of volunteers because I'm an advocate for that, for the public information or whatever you were referring to. And I also think that once the missing department heads, or however we choose to categorize them, are filled, those positions are filled, I think maybe at that point we evaluate the need for an assistant city manager, maybe. It's hard, it seems like if I were in the city manager's shoes at this point, it seems almost impossible to know what is needed because there's, so many key positions that are vacant. Let's see. And then I guess I just was curious, Councilmember Ford, how a public information position would increase revenue. I thought you said that. Will pay for itself.
I said it could possibly. It just depends. It depends on how they would be utilized. If it frees up time, because it was meant. Are you cool if I defend? Okay. If our city manager finds that she's strapped for time and she's having to pull from our other departments, it was mentioned that she might have to have somebody else kind of facilitate those extra duties that she's unable to get to because she needs an assistant, but we don't have that position funded. If we separate tonight, which I understand the need for the finance director. So my question is, would we be pulling people from their duties to do this? So less would be done in their departments. Grant writing, all of these things are important for us to get things funded. And those communications are vital in creating those relationships with other agencies. So I think in a way, I mean, I don't have a full plan right now. It's just not,
No,
yeah,
I was just curious, like if there was, I wasn't trying to debate you. I was just,
no, I was just like, if there's a way for them to pay for themselves. And to correct Mr. Simons, I'm okay with creating a new position. I just don't think it would be the one that we were talking about. I think this would be more focused on communications and any other things that are needed. But I do think that I understand the need to focus on finance.
Mm-hmm. And I guess I'll just also add that, thank you, Councilmember Ford, for clarifying that. And I will add that I think finance, an appropriate person with the right skills for the finance department head is pretty critical. I mean, with our current financial situation, I mean, I just think that is a really critical position to get just right.
Thank you. Councilmember Barton, question or comments? Thank you. Thanks. I'm gonna jump in there real quick. I agree. This all pre-existed prior to this consideration of changing, and the idea of having a finance director versus an ACM that had less finance experience than what we're trying to achieve by making this change will free up other time. It will free up the city manager's time, and it will free up some of the department heads' time, because you're going to have somebody who's more in tune with understanding, like Mr. Conway just did, where they're able to connect the dots with PERS and work with HR with those things. And so there's a lot more efficiency. With that efficiency then allows more time. Don't want to get into the communication thing because it's a separate subject, but I agree it was a goal, and I think it serves a different purpose. All those things add in. It does come down, as the city manager shared, to making hard decisions, because every one of these department heads right now is going to tell you they need staffing, and we know that's real. But the idea of having somebody with the financial knowledge that we need, and it's always important in any city, not just good times, bad times, is, strategizing and making the best financial moves that will allow us to afford to hire those other people, to afford to give those pay raises, to keep the people we need. We need somebody who is focused primarily on that. The opportunity to have an ACM promote, or as other jobs or other departments may shift, there's opportunities to add that level of extra help and extra responsibility to a department head. I think we're very fortunate that when the city manager's gone, City Manager Kimball, and in the past, we have great leaders that step into those roles. And I know when I was on the on the fire department as a reserve, we had the T-Pier fire, and, we had, our chief was gone, and the people, so the city manager was gone. Those things happen. They just do. And so we're very fortunate that they have that ability to step up that level. But really focusing on that position will free up other positions, especially the city managers, if it's somebody that she can step back to. I mean, I've seen the budget sitting on her desk since the day she got here, and everything else evolves from that. So I certainly do see that importance right now to that position. And there was a comment about the Chamber Economic Development contract, and I will share that, when the last city manager was here, he utilized the Chamber director a lot to do a lot of side services through that contract, that, because they had shared that with me. I need a speech written, and they did it for me, so there's lots of places you can try and put that direction for the communication that's needed, for that extra help that's needed. Should that be under an economic development contract? Another conversation, another time. But yeah, so I totally support this transition and this need, and I'm thrilled that we have an internal candidate willing to step up, that has the experience of the city and the knowledge of the city to serve as interim, and hopefully a consideration of, the opportunity to take that leap. So that's very exciting to me. Very exciting. Councilmember Edwards?
I couldn't agree with you more, Mayor. I'm a big fan of promoting within and looking at our in-house people who are very knowledgeable and intelligent, are eager to learn, and who I truly believe have other aspirations. So I do appreciate Emily Conrad moving up and stepping into that interim position, and hopefully, you know, if all goes well, maybe moving into the other position. But as of right now, I really appreciate. Personally, I do want to say that I did want to see this position divided and to have the ACM part taken off, because, you know, our situation is different right now. And I think, you know, it's incredible how much, you know, a few years changes what your focus is and oftentimes what your priorities are. So thank you for this report, and I think this is a really good idea.
Councilmember Ford.
I'm in full support of this decision, and I'm really excited to see, to hear about the new hire, and hope that that is somebody from our internal staff. And I just want to say that I agree with everything that's been said here, and yeah, so.
Perfect. Looking for a motion. I see Councilmember Barton ready there.
Yes. I would like to recommend that we adopt resolution number 20-24, reinstating the finance director job classification and job description, and approve the pay schedule, and adopt resolution number 21-24, approving a revised 23-24 pay schedule, including the finance director classification and increasing the salary for the community development director to align with other Morro Bay director positions.
I'll second that. Thank you. I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. With that, we are done with our business items, and I will move on to see if there's any council declaration of future agenda items.
I'm wondering if I didn't see it on future agenda presentations, and I was just wondering if we could have, I really enjoyed the presentation for the climate action plan that was done for the Planning Commission by the Cal Poly students, and I'm just curious if that would be, if it would be appropriate here to ask for that to come back. It wouldn't be an agenda item, it would be a presentation.
You want to see it a second time? I already saw it once. Well, anybody wanted to see it tuned in.
Well, that's true. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it was, I can talk with community development and see, yeah, because, oh, and I would remind the community that planning commission meeting is canceled next week. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
No planning commission meeting next week.
So I don't know.
How long was it? I don't remember. I watched it and I don't remember. It was, because it was really spread out.
I feel like it wasn't that long. Well, you were, Councilmember Barton, you were there as well. I'm trying to remember. It was probably maybe 15 minutes.
Oh, well, I think it was longer than that.
I think so.
Yeah. So my thought was that if we had
like
a
an abridged version,
that would be something that would be interesting to the community. Yeah, to the assembled.
Yeah, because I know that we have some crossover. We have an audience that watches both or attends both, but I think it would be I thought it was so good that it would be worth advertising it to the audience that attends our meetings.
City Manager Kimball.
Oh, yeah, I was just going to say that, so thank you, Mayor, that I can look into that, arrange that, and perhaps we'll have an update or something, or condensed version, and we can bring back before, the council.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I don't think we have a 20-minute version of it.
No.
Just it would have to be.
I know the presentation only has a time limit anyway, so. Yeah. Can I also add to that, sort of? I was wondering if the elementary school kids that put on the presentation for Morro Bay, there were two that did, there were like, I don't know, 6 or 8 classes that did different projects, but there were 2 that were from Morro Bay. And there was one in, I mean, I would want them to invite them both here, but the 4th graders were so amazing. The presentation they put on, they created their own website. It was unbelievable what they did. And I just thought if they could do some kind of abbreviated presentation, it would be adorable.
Can we circle back on that? I want to, I mean, the presentation that Cal Poly did was part of our climate action plan. And I know I love the kids too. I have many grandkids. I'm just concerned about the time and you know, how the presentation would go. That's why I think when I had said maybe we could look at it at Public Works or Harbor Community Development, where they're doing some of the climate things where it's maybe a less formal setting, would be maybe my consideration. Do you want to talk with the city manager and see what we can figure out?
Yeah,
Bring it back?
yeah.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, perfect. Perfect. Anything else? With that, we're adjourned. You just need your grandkids closer. Oh, my grandkids, I have 2 steps, yeah. Yeah.